Good morning, everybody. Well, as you can see, I'm here, and there's Gracie Cat back there. She's over here behind me. Heard me come sit down by the camera and came running. It's good having friends. Well, let's see here. Yesterday, I had a fairly long phone conversation with one of the viewers. He's called me before. This is a gentleman who had a place in New Mexico, ended up moving up in the Pacific Northwest with family, and now seriously considering coming here. And we were talking about, I guess you could call it generational differences or generation gaps, that obviously I'm part of one age group of people who were born, and was a little younger. And so there's a split there. We have a difference in perspective, in time. And we were talking about housing, and especially in regards to, I believe we were dealing with like millennial generation there. I've got sons in that situation, that age group. The one has successfully managed to buy himself a place to live in Madison, Wisconsin, and the other, he rents. Things to think about here, because I'm always on this camera and I'm talking about invest, right, and I'm never going to stop saying that. Okay. And, of course, investment takes time. You put down $100 on something, it might be a long time before it turns into 1,000. Most of us have time. Most of us do. But even though I talk about, putting on enough equipment on the roof for solar, and making sure you get permits and doing everything right and so on, and sticking money into it, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean that's where I got started. Yeah, I didn't get started that way either. No, I didn't walk right into a bank at 21 and say, hey, give me a home loan. I'm going to buy a house in Chicago. No. They wouldn't even give me a loan for a Ford pickup at that moment. Had no credit. I'd never used credit. I didn't believe in it in my youth. Anyway, developing credit is a good idea. I highly recommend it, whether you like capitalism and you enjoy our economic system or not. I think the simple answer there is that if you resist the system, you get the stick. If you join the system, you get the carrot. Yeah, that's the way it works. I figured that out because I used to resist the system. Yeah, when I was a young man, I grew up in a period of time, where there was so much social change in the 60s there, and people were talking about living on communes, all kinds of different social things. And definitely that generation at the time was not real big on capitalism. Why? Because they weren't getting the advantages of it either. Yeah. So the greatest generation that had all the money. Anyway, and I had inadvertently encountered families of people who were really very, very, very wealthy around the Chicago area. That was because I play guitar. The son in a very wealthy family was also an excellent musician. We met each other, so I got to see what the other half lived like. Yeah. Boy, that's crazy. The nuts, all of them, the neighbors, everybody. I'm not even going to bother with the stories. Trust me, they were nuts. And so I'm about 18, I'm looking at this and going, wow, if that's what money does to people, I don't want any part of it. They're crazy. Yeah, and then I went off for years like that. I eventually ended up getting married and rented in a upstairs of a house in northern Illinois, and worked a regular job, in the old 9 to 5, and I got tired of it. I got tired of Chicago, and so I said, that's it. I started putting some money away in a sock, and pretty soon I had enough money that I was able to actually buy a 40-acre parcel in northern Wisconsin, and I did so. And after that, as soon as I can get out of Chicago and get on that 40, I did. And, well, that meant for me that the 40 was totally undeveloped. Okay, I mean, it had a couple of plowable farm fields in it. The rest was all forest. There's no driveways, no electricity, no running water, nothing. Property did have a spring. And so, well, first thing I did was picked up a $500 old beat-up 28-foot aluminum house camping trailer and pulled it in there. Set that up, dug a hole, built an outhouse, developed the spring so that I could pump water from the spring up and, keep it in containers up at the trailer and so on. Well, yeah, and hey, dude, I mean, sitting down in an outhouse at 40 below zero, you're down in Alabama, maybe you're worried about snakes coming up out of the hole, but yeah, you get butt skin stuck right to the toilet seat. I used to have to take my gloves off, put them down on the seat, and sit on the gloves. It was rugged. Yeah, it totally, back to the land homesteading thing. I got gravel hauled in to make myself a decent driveway. Now, different states and different counties all have different rules about using land, putting up structures. Okay. Now, basically, just about anywhere in the United States, if you're going to turn around and try to build yourself a regular single-family home, you're going to need a building permit, okay, to do it right. On the other hand, there are ways around it in many places. Yeah. In Russ County, in northern rural Wisconsin, we had what we called a land use permit. It cost me $25. Yeah, the land use permit was generally used to build like hunting cabins and things like this, temporary type structures, things. It wasn't generally used for building a house, okay? But it was legal to build structures with that $25 permit and nobody'd bother you, And so I did. And a lot of the neighbors had kind of retired from the dairy farming industry, and there were a lot of empty dairy barns, empty granaries around the area, and everybody was paying taxes on them by square foot. Well, I got smart. I went out and I said, look, here, Charlie, I'll take that barn down for you free of charge. Okay, and then you can take it off the tax roll and you can, save yourself a few $100s a year. And, well, this worked. And so I took down numerous barns, I took down several granaries, and I accumulated a massive pile of excellent lumber. A lot of it was, real nice tongue and groove barn stuff. And, well, northern Wisconsin doesn't have any termites. There is rot, but most of the wood was in really good condition. A bit dry, you had to handle it carefully so you could split old wood, but I turned around and I reassembled all of that stuff back into a house. Yeah, I built myself a cabin. It was 6-sided cabin. Nice place. It was decent, Put a wood stove in there, and, well, we got that far along. I turned around. I took the rest of the barn wood I'd accumulated. I sold it down in Chicago to people to panel bars with. That got me enough money to put a well in. And shortly after the well, that was really, getting pretty exotic. I had a hand pump. Yeah, I found myself an old hand pump someplace and rigged it up with a new cylinder and dropped her down there. And so we had water right next to the cabin. Got to pump a bucket full, but it was good water. And eventually ran in some electricity. By then, I had acquired a job working for an implement dealer, driving his trucks, delivering, picking up, and working on tractors, hay binds, and stuff like that, fixing implements. Well, it didn't pay very well, and eventually I moved over to working in the Carpenters Union, building wood windows and doors there, and, well, that was good pay. Well, now all of a sudden I had some money I could bank. Next thing you know, next door neighbor, 80-acre dairy farm, decided he's gone out of business, moving out. They managed to give me a loan because I had a job and some money in the bank. Bought the farm. To take a loan out to do it, but I bought the farm. It all went well for a long time there. Of course, then I hit the wall in a divorce, and I lost everything and started over at ground level in the middle of my life. Well, later we started in California, and, things moved from there. But life is a little bit of an economic stair climb for most of us if we do things right. And so, I went to northern Wisconsin not only because I like Wisconsin, but land was much cheaper than it was around Chicago. So I moved to find a place where I could buy a piece of land to get started. Also, like I say, there was abundant resources in that area for recycling. So much recycling. California, again, the Bay Area. Oh, I did so much recycling. So much of the building I did, like for my greenhouse and, sheds and things there, all built out of old growth virgin redwood from people taking down fences, taking out decks. Somebody'd hire me to pull out a deck and put in a paver patio. It'd be all redwood. Yeah, like that. The nursery I ran, we had old redwood structure. A lot of it had, started to go bad. Took it down, took it home. Yeah, take 4x6s, resaw them into 2x4s, and so on. All beautiful old redwood. California's got so much waste around the Bay Area, especially. Nobody wants the old stuff, and so there's a lot of material, say. And if you're in you live in Alaska, you can get a permit from the state. At least you used to be able to get a permit from the state to haul logs out, build yourself a cabin. Well, there's material for the labor, Like I say, up in Wisconsin, we had so many old barns. There's so much recycle. California, a lot of recycle. And then again, California is also suitable for, rice hull rammed earth construction buildings and things like that, which, again, are using soil mostly. American Southwest, adobe, okay? You can make adobe right out of the soil that the property is, made of. This exists in many places, and again, in many places, the requirements to get started with that are not nearly what they are here. Now, California building codes and all that is far more stringent, much more expensive than it is here. It's lightweight by comparison, but nevertheless, it's here, and people avoid it all the time. I don't suggest it. The reason why, as I said, it's an economic staircase, okay? If all you can do is buy a couple acres on the island, say, and put up a cabin, and that's about all you got money for to get started with, do it legally. Do it legally. Honest to God, do it legally. Yeah, because you're probably going to move on. And when you move on, if it's all permitted, no problem to sell it to somebody else. Easy. If it's all unpermitted, well, then that means anybody who wants to buy that, they have to come up with the complete cash. Or you have to do some kind of goofy owner land contract with the purchaser or so forth. You can't just have them get a loan from a bank, drop the money in your account, and you leave, see? And so it really bogs things down. It's not smart. And getting permits is not that expensive. Now, prices for building things around the whole world have changed dramatically lately. And so anything I remember about it goes back a few years. I guess the last building I put up was probably just before the beginning when COVID hit, and it was a few years ago. But it is possible to build small legal structures here that are livable for, relatively low sums of money. The one thing you won't be able to do here, though, and this is important compared to the rest of the country, we don't have recycled material here in general. I mean, if there's anything out there that's worth having, somebody else has got their fingers on it. Believe me, there is not a lot of scrap anything here. You know, I was used to using recycled redwood for plant stakes in California. Here, I got to use guava poles or bamboo, something that grows, because, man, there ain't no recycled redwood around. If you even did manage to get your hands on, say, a house to take apart, maybe to recycle the lumber, we have so many different kinds of termites here, you know, and 3 of them will eat the tires off your Chevy, so it's parked too long. So most wood in this area that has been left, as nobody wants, is not worth anything. Also, we don't really have the kind of forests where you could go in and harvest and make saw logs. I mean, ohias are used for posts and things like this. There is wood here that has value, but we just don't have, you know, the sorts of lumber that you're going to need to build a house. That's long gone. And so you're not going to pull it off the landscape either. Any lumber you find here that's local, that's sawn, is probably koa and a few other things that you'll faint when you see the price. Okay, so that's not a thing. We don't have soil that you can make rammed earth from. Okay, you can't make adobe here. We really don't hardly have any natural building materials on this island in the conventional sense. I mean, yeah, you got, you know, enough stuff to build grass huts and all that. You know, the Hawaiians did fine, basically, by using sticks and leaves to construct what they lived in. But that's, I'm sure, not quite what everybody else is looking for today. The last time I saw a structure like that, it was in the national park, not on somebody's property. You know, there's all kinds of ideas. I see people doing yurts here. You know, I don't. Yurt is for desert steppes in Mongolia. It's really not the right kind of materials or design for a rainforest climate. So, in short, if you come here and you're going to build something, it's a pretty good bet that there's no way around you having to buy brand new material. Yeah. Even the steel roofing around here, most of it that you could get your hands on that nobody wants, is rusty as heck and got holes in it. Yeah. Everything rots, everything ruts, then the termites eat everything. So, that ain't going to happen either. Yeah, I've had to buy absolutely new material for everything that I do here. I don't see any other way around that. Right here behind me, over my shoulder, you'll see a shed there. Yeah, that shed I put up in 2016, right after moving here, because I needed a place, to put my tools. I didn't have one. And I also wanted a place for doing potting. Now, that shed over there is, that's a 10 by 12, okay? Well, I suppose if you're a, what do you call it, a bachelor farmer, you don't have a family, a guy could live in a cabin like that, I suppose. Now, there's no interior wall. That's a single wall. I don't have any drywall up in there. There is electricity in it. It's wired. But it has a good solid roof. It's a plantation-style building. I built it to match the house we live in. Same color, same shape, same basic everything. Now, I did not need a permit to put that up. The reason why? I already have a permit on the house I'm sitting next to over here. Yeah, and so in Hawaii, if you're on ag-zoned land, and you have one permitted structure, the farmer's allowed to put up structures up to 6,000 square feet, the last time I checked, okay, without additional permits. It's best that when you do that you build them so they fit to code. It's always good that they go to code anyway. There's a reason for that. But yeah, these sheds, outbuildings, anything like that, the only thing you can't do is to include plumbing, sewage, sanitary facilities, or cooking. If you put in sewage and cooking, well, that's an Ohana, and that takes special permits, and those are not easy to get anymore anyway. So, but okay, so that cutesy little shed over there, that was about $3,600 at the time. Here's another one that was put up more recently. This one's a 12 by 14. That's Ellen's shed. She needed a place to store things. And she'd been after me for a while to get this done, and so we did. It's up the hill here. It's got itself a little sidewalk and so on. It's a little bigger than the last one. So this one here, prices had gone up at the time that we assembled this. I believe it was about $6,500 is what a shed like that one cost. Now it's again post and pier. The other one is post and pier. This one has its own independent solar electrical system, and so it also has lights and wiring, but they're powered by the sun, and there's batteries in there. It made it a little more expensive, bigger size, but then the increase in the cost of lumber. And this same thing is probably going to cost even more now because lumber's gone up since then. I kind of got in just under the jump in the wire. But, it's like I was saying, it's about 12 by 14. It only has one door and one window because it's a shed. I put it in for security. Otherwise, I'd have put more windows and stuff in it for her. But she just wants to store stuff in there mostly. Well, and of course, we got the big house, right? And it costs money. This is full solar hot water, it's got 2-car carport, the whole 9 yards, a couple of 1,000 square foot. It's got itself a regular gravel driveway. In order to do this here, we had to bring in a dozer. You can see right here where I cut. The slope is cut because we're on a hillside. Now, this house is on a slab. Okay. I prefer the slab building, but the slab building is going to cost you a whole lot more. You can see here it's sitting right down tight to the ground on top of cement. Okay. Well, slab building is more expensive because we do not have any cement deposits here, okay? Everything has to be shipped, and cement is heavy. So, using concrete costs a lot of money here. And the more concrete you use, as you can see, it's all the way around the porches and everything. Yeah, so, concrete's expensive here. Oh, boy. Yeah, it was a major expense when I put this building in. Post and pier, which is where you put down just a little bit of concrete at the ground level, and then you have posts that come up that your house sits on the posts. It's risen above the ground. It doesn't touch the earth. It's a lot cheaper. Although you will then end up having to construct floor joists and flooring and things that you really don't have to do with concrete floors. You don't need any joists. You just cover it with tiles, carpets, flooring, something. But it is cheaper. Especially it's cheaper because when we did this, to be able to get it set for being able to put concrete slab down, it took quite a bit of bulldozing. All right, there was a lot of dozing, and then there was a lot of hauling of rock because I'm on soil. Soil was too soft to pour concrete over, and so they had to bring in rock, and then they had to compact the rock. Okay, and so we're sitting on a pile of compacted rock, and that cost quite a bit of money. Well, so, if you're trying to save money on building over here, you're going to want to put it up on post and pier. Plus and minus to that, again, is that if you put it on posts and piers, you don't really have to shape the land around the building. Okay? It could actually leave the land almost completely rough and wild, put the piers up, level the building, put steps up into it, hey, there you are, but biggest problem is then there are a lot of negatives to not preparing the land around here ahead of time, like drainage around the buildings and things like this. But it's a lot cheaper. And in my mind, looking back to my personal history with building and how I stepped up like this over time to get to where I'm at the moment, I'd do it. I'd do it so that it was legal, so it was easy to sell. And if you didn't have the money to doze the lot, and then you went in and just cut it by hand like a lot of people do and put the building up, fine. Somebody else will come by later and they will buy that from you. They will. Yes, the market here in Hawaii is pretty much always going to be reasonably good. It's an island. There's only so much land here, okay? And so they're already seeing that in places like Oahu and Maui, where population is much higher. Average price on homes is over $1 million a piece. And most of that is due to lack of buildings and competition to get them. Well, here we still have a lot of open land, and there's no shortage here yet, but you just wait. It's happening. Yeah, the population grows all the time. So I guess I didn't want to give folks the impression that I think that, building small cabins and doing this sort of low impact living styles with low buck is bad or wrong. It isn't. It may be exactly where you need to be. Yeah, I've had times, where I looked at people in my own family, younger people, and wondered, why don't they, kind of do what I did? I just went out and I grabbed a hammer and some nails. I started building. Yeah, there's always a way. Anyway, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about building cabins here and whatnot. But I'm still encouraging everybody to get yourself a permit. The easiest way on these, honestly, is that every lumberyard here in the island worth a hoot. I mean, that'd be HPM, Hansador, Argus, all three. They all offer package homes. Package homes are the absolute cheapest way that you can build here. There is no cheaper way. If you buy that material retail, you're going to pay more for it than when you buy it in the package. And I've looked the packages over before, and I have seen that they have things in there that are really basically barely cabins or sheds. There are some really small buildings in these packages that almost anybody could afford to own. And so I do recommend that, because if you go that route, you're not only going to have all the right materials, and you're going to have a design that comes with it. There's a blueprint of how these things will go up. And the county finds the package homes a rubber stamp when it comes to permitting. Because if you don't make a lot of changes or anything to that, they're just going to look at it. They're going to go, oh, it's one of those Hansador package homes. Give me your check. Yeah, they don't argue over it. It's once you start getting involved with trying to do all these things yourself and so on, and you have something the next thing you know, they got their nose down. Yeah, you're going to find out that they get your nose in your business, and it's I've seen it before. The last thing you ever want to do around here is think you're smarter than the county. That backfires bad. Okay, hang loose, folks. Aloha.